Welcome back, guys. Hope you're all doing great. And this is the second part of our PixShare mobile application where we can able to share our images so that user can download this app and they can download our all the 4K images. So since in the part one we successfully built the UI, and in this part we're going to build the complete backend actions for our mobile application. So let's have a look what we've done so far. Click this get started over here. It's showing the list of images, and when I tap this, it's going to bring that complete image over here, and that is going to provide us the download option as well. So this having a nice masonry layout. So if you haven't watched the part one, so please click the link in the description below and go ahead and watch that complete video and then start from here. All right, so in this video we're gonna use the Sanity version 3 to build our backend APIs on and this nice website which is provided by Sanity itself, so that you can able to upload all your images, items and categories over here. Then we're going to deploy it in the live server, and we're going to use these APIs to fetch all these images directly to our mobile application. So without wasting your time, let's jump into the video. All right, guys, so now go to your browser and search for Sanity version 3. So since we are going to use the Sanity version 3, you can see it's the latest version, and you can find this documentation over here. So click this and you can see how to use the Sanity version 3 and what is the difference between Sanity 2 and version 3. So please go through this complete article over here, and this is the command that we need to execute in our terminal. So let me copy it and get back to our Visual Studio Code and go to the new terminal. Okay. So let me clear it, and here I'm just going to say npm create sanity at latest. So enter. So that will load. Yes, it's asking you to install this package, of course. Yes, so it's installing. It will take some time, so please wait until it's successfully processed. So I'm going to pause this video. Once it's done, let's continue. All right, so here we go. Now it's asking to create a project. If you have already created an existing project, please go for choose the existing project. In this case, we're going to build a new project, so click create new project, enter. And what is the project name? It's going to be, in this case, I'm going to keep it as the server. The folder name is going to be server, and enter. It's taking some time. Here we go. So are you going to use the default dataset configuration? Yes. So the default dataset name will be production, of course. Yes. Then it's creating the dataset. So what is the project folder? Project path will be yes, because we already created the folder name as server. So enter. And then what kind of schema we're going to use, since it's a version 3. So of course, let's create a block schema so that we can alter it easily. So let's create a block schema. And do you want to use the TypeScript? No, we need to use the JavaScript. So, and it's installing. Do you want to use npm or yarn? In this case, I'm going to use the yarn, and now it's installing it. Okay, and you can see a new server folder is created. Inside that we have that all these schemas which is related to the blog post and everything. It's loading. This might take some time, so please wait until it's successfully downloaded. In this case, I'm going to pause the video and let's continue after the successful installation. All right, then, so now our Sanity, it's completely downloaded, and you can see it's provided a nice commands which helps us to open the documentation. You need to run Sanity docs. If you want to manage all your project, you need to run Sanity manage. And if you click Sanity help, that will help us to explore the CLI. Okay, so let's type the command Sanity manage. All right, so that will take us to our Sanity dashboard where you can manage all your projects over here. All right, so we having a project over here, and it's showing the project name as server. Okay, that's the project name that we created, and this is the project we're gonna work. So click it. Okay, so here you can see all the members, who's the members. Currently it's using only my email or profile over here. So initially, if you're launching this project for first time, it's asking you to sign in. You can use your Gmail or email or your any other authentication provider or they're providing, you can use your Gmail. And then if you go to the datasets, that's the dataset which we created, the production. And if you go to the settings tab over here, you can see all the API settings. Okay, so click the API, and there you can see it's showing the cross origins. So if you want to allow it to different cross origins, so you need to add the cross origins over here. And if you want to add any API tokens, so what kind of token that you need to create, like editor. So in this case you need to use the editor, so that's why it will allow us to alter our datasets inside our Sanity, our project server. So choose the editor and click save, and this is going to be admin. So give the name as the admin and click save. All right, so that will give us this API token. In this case, if you want to use this token, you can use and integrate this inside your application. So let me delete it for the time being, so we don't need it right now. All right, so then what we need to do, let's get back to our Visual Studio Code. Okay, so here let's have a look right now in the schemas. So this is our index.js. This is the place where all our schemas it's being mounted. So this is the schema. It's nothing but basically, if I open the post, it has this fields, the title, the slug, the image field, the author field, and the reference of that post. Everything will be it's referenced over here, and they are mounted in this index.js. So now let's run it. So let's say yarn dev. So that will open the Sanity. Oh, sorry, we need to move into the server folder, server, and we need to run yarn dev. All right, so now it's starting the Sanity developer and it's configuring it, and you can see this is the local host. Let's open this local host, and that will open our specific project in that specific local host. Okay, so it's opening. So I'm going to use my Gmail, Google, use this. Okay, so now our Sanity project is over here. So this is the schemas currently which we are having defaultly in our block. We choose the block schema, right? So we have the category, we have the author information, and we have the post. So all you have to do is if you click this post, so that will help us to create a new post, to give a title, slug, author name, and main image, categories, and blah blah blah, lot of information over here. So what we need to do is we need to alter all these information. So let's get back over here. I'm going to stop the server, close this. Okay, so first what we need the category. So let's get to the category and customize the default category over here. So what is the field we need? We need the category, of course we need it. Then we need the description. Yes, we need the description so that we can keep the description. And the third field is going to be our image field. So let's define a new field over here. So right after that, so we can say define a field, open a bracket, an object. So what is the name of that field? It's going to be name. It's going to be image. Okay, that's the image. That's the that's the field which helps us to access that particular column. Then title will be the column header, so image. Then type, what kind of data type that is going to have, a string or a number, or what is it? In this case it's a blob, so we're going to use it as an image itself. Then option, we're going to use this options. So we need to enable the hotspot. So hotspot, it's an object, hotspot true. So if you're not sure about the hotspot, what exactly the hotspot is, so let's go to the browser and search for Sanity image hotspot. Search for Sanity image hotspot. So that will gives you the complete descriptions about the hotspot, crop, how to crop. This hotspot will help us to allow us to customize our images, so how to crop and alter and all those things. So just enable this option so that you will able to crop your images by drag and dropping into your Sanity server. All right, so let's get back here. So I think we created everything correctly. Image type is going to be image. Otherwise, what you can do, go to your post, there you can find the image field. So just copy this field and get back to the category, and then just update this field over here like this. Instead of this, I'm just going to keep this as an image itself, and instead of main image, that is going to be image, just like that. Okay, if you're not sure about typing it by itself, just copy it and paste it over here. Then what we can do is save the changes, and I don't need the author, so I'm going to delete it. And I don't need this black block content, so let me delete this. And I'm going to rename this post as items.js. Okay, so the names, so let's get into our items.js, because we need to alter a lot. This is going to be items, and the title is going to be items. And since this is a document, so title, we're going to leave it as a title itself, and we don't need this slug, so let's delete this slug. Author informations we don't need, and preview, we don't need this. Let's delete this completely. Okay, so then what we can do is save these changes, and let's keep this image. So let me bring this image at the end, because I need to keep the image at the end completely. All right, so title. So then what we can give the description. So let me give some description. This is, let me copy this and paste it one more time. And we don't need these fields, so let me delete all these fields, just like this. So second field is going to be description, and the categories, of course, it's going to refer this category, so it's going to be category and category. It's an array, and you can, because the same image can be referenced to multiple categories, right? So that's the reason it's going to be an array, and that we are going to refer it to our specific categories. It's of the type as a reference to which it is going to be category. That's the exact file name. Otherwise, it should be the exact same name as your document name. Okay, so please make sure everything is the same. So now let's save the changes, and let's get back to your index. So since we already deleted our post, let me delete everything, and let me delete everything from here. So we need to bring our items, then we need to bring our category. So now we have our updated schemas over here. So let's run our server one more time, yarn dev. So that will trigger the Sanity developer command. So let's get back to our local host. Since local host is loaded, so let's run this in our browser. So let me close this one and this one. So here we go. So now we have our categories, and now we have our items over here. Okay, so let's see what we can do. So if I click this category over here, okay, so that's asking for the title, and all we have to do is to give the descriptions over here. So let's get back to the PixShare. So first we're gonna bring the nature. So let's choose an image. For that, I'm going to use this. So let's click the free download. So that will be downloaded. Then what we need to do, we'll search for forest. So let's bring any, so let me choose this one, free download, and let's bring the babies. Let's choose, okay, let me choose this one, download. Okay, and search for animals, and in this case I'm going to choose this one, free download. And cars, I'll choose this one, free download. If you want a vertical images, so please go ahead and change the orientations. The filter, just change the orientations to the vertical so that you will get the vertical images. Okay, so let's choose. Okay, I'll choose this one. Download it. All right, so let's get back to the how many images we have. 2, 4, okay, 4, 5. Let's download few more. And what are the thing, like animals, we already downloaded it. Nature, landscapes, change the orientations to vertical. So choose the landscape as you wish. In this case, I'll download this one. Download. So let's search payments and let's change the orientations to verticals. So in this case, I'm going to choose which one. All right, so let's choose this one. Download. Okay, so now we have almost 2, 6, 8, 9 images. That's more than enough. So let's get back to the categories. So first one is going to be flowers. Let's give a description like nice flowers. So please take your time and add your descriptions. Okay, and then all you have to do is to click and draw inside this field, so that will start uploading your image inside. By default, Sanity will provide all these nice options as a website. All you have, so this is the purpose of the hotspot. Okay, so you can crop your image all you want. Okay, so you can see we have a lots of options like copy the URL, clear the field, or download this image. All right, so it's providing all these options just because of that option hotspot true. So once you're done with this, all you have to do is to click publish, so that this data will be published in our, so that we can access this through the API. So now we created this flower just like the same way. Please go ahead and add all these fields respective images which we downloaded. So I'm just going to pause the video and take my time to upload all these things. So please go ahead, you also guys upload all the necessary images in your server. All right then, so I finally added few categories over here. So just like the same way, we need to add the items as well. So go to the items tab, click the items tab over here and create your new item. Okay, so for the items in this case, go here and I'm going to click the home page, navigate to the home page. So I'm going to add this animation, this image. So let me download this. For the time being, download and go to our server page and let's say gorilla, let's say pure monkey. Okay, so category, so far it's not added, so we need to add the animals category. So click add item and expand your category, so you can see the category list of categories you added. I'm going to choose the animals. All right, and I'm going to bring this image and drop it straight away over here like that. Cool. Okay, so now if I click publish, so that will publish the items. So just like the same way, so go ahead and please add the items for the few of the categories. You can use this free website so that you can download the free images as you wish. So please go ahead and download it, and I'm just going to pause the video and I'm going to upload few items over there. Building our Sanity and it's deploying it. So this will take some time to deploy it successfully. So please wait until it's successfully deployed in the Sanity cloud. So it's deploying. So finally it's done and it's deployed. This is the URL which is deployed lively in the server. So if I open this, open it, and it's opening, it's loading, and look at that. So now we have our items and categories which is lively in our server, right? So now we have our backend database, like a place where we can able to add these images and all those things. So let's get back to our server. So now we need to access all these things in the front end, so basically in our mobile application. So to do that, what we need to do is, so we need to add the Sanity client in the front end. So let's go ahead and add the Sanity client in the front end. Okay, open up your terminal. So let me go here, and what we can do, let me create a new terminal. That's better. So since the server is running, so we don't need this. So let me delete this one and let me create a new one. So here we're just going to add yarn add sanity. So we need to install the client, and as well as we need to get the image URL, sanity client space at sanity slash image hyphen URL. So this helps us to integrate the sanity in our project, and this helps us to get the CDN URL from our sanity cloud. So enter. So that's install these two packages in our React Native application. So it's installing and it's fetching. I think I'm having a very bad connection of internet, and yeah, so please wait until it's downloaded. It's downloading, still downloading, almost finished. All right, so here we go. So now we have our Sanity client in the front end. So all we have to do is to go to our, let me collapse everything, because let me collapse everything. So in the root folder, I need to create a file called sanity.js, and we're gonna configure our sanity file over here. All right, so let me close all these tabs, close all. Let me close everything. Let me keep it clean, and let me collapse it. So here I'm just going to create a new file over here called sanity.js. So that is in our root folder of our application. So right over here, so what we need to do is to showing metro or client, it's out of sync. So okay, that's a fine. Let's stop our server and let's start it later, no issues. So stop it for the time being. So here in the Sanity, what we need to do, we need to import two packages. So import from sanity at sanity client. So we're gonna create the client. So create client. Then what we need to do, we need to get the image builder. So import image URL builder, image URL builder, URL, it should be URL builder from at sanity image URL. All right, so let's create a client. So const client is equals create client, and we need to supply the objects, list of objects. So the object is going to be your project ID, dataset, and the API versions, or everything over here. So in this case, first you need to give the project ID. So you can access your project ID from your server over here. If you go to the server, and if you go to the Sanity CLI, you can see your project ID and the datasets over here. So let me copy this from here, and let me directly paste it over here. All right, then I'm just going to say use CDN. So we're going to get the CDN for our image, so we need to enable it. So let's say true, or it's not a string, it's a boolean, so true. Then you need to supply the API version. So use the current date of your machine as the API version. So since it's 12th March, I'm just going to say 2023, and it's going to be 03, and the date is going to be 12. Okay, that's the API version. All right, so next what we need to do, we need to get that image builder. So we need to create a builder for our image. So const builder is equals image builder, and supply this client inside that image builder function. Then what we need to do, we need to get a function which helps us to get the CDN link for that particular image. So export const URL for. So we're going to create a function called URL for, and that is going to take a parameter and use an arrow 6 function from the builder object builder.image. I'm going to get the image. Using that, we need to supply a parameter over here, and that is going to be the source. So let's get that source. Okay, so save the changes. So this will export the URL for function, so that we can get that URL for functions. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to get the we need to fetch the data from the Sanity cloud. So to fetch the data from the Sanity cloud, all we have to do is to get to our live server and take this vision over here. So that takes the place where you can able to write the queries and everything. Okay, so in this place, this is the place where we're gonna write the GraphQL. So if you're not sure about the GraphQL, search for Sanity GraphQL. queue. So that helps us go to this, open this documentations. Please take some time and search how to write the queries, how to write the filterings and everything. So that really helps you to understand how exactly you need to work with the GraphQL. All right, so go through the Sanity documentation. So just like the same way here, I'm just going to say star, open the square bracket. Okay, so let me make it bigger, star, open the square bracket, and I'm just going to say underscore type. So basically we're going to access the type. So the type is equals to category, and I'm going to fetch everything from the category. So let's fetch it. Now we can see it's giving us all the results from the category. In this case, if you want to fetch a very specific item, so all you have to do, open this, and you can say if you want to get everything, so that will gives you the everything from here. So if you just, all you have to say is a triple dot comma, so that's also will gives you the everything from the Sanity. In this case, if you want to fetch only a very specific field instead of getting everything, you can supply the field name over here. So let's say I need the title and the description alone. I need this title and the description alone. So let's fetch it. So that will gives you the title and the description alone. In this case, we need to fetch everything. So I'm just going to delete this and I'm going to keep it as it is like this. Then I'm just going to run it. So now we have 8 different items, the details, ID, and when it's created, and every information is over here. So let me copy this query, copy it, and get back to your function. So here we're gonna get export const, we're gonna get the get category. Let's say this is the function which helps us to get the category is equals to a function, an arrow function, and this function is going to be an asynchronous function. All right, so inside this, so now what we need to do, we need to get the we need to fetch the data from that by executing the query. So I'm just going to say await client dot fetch, open it, and we're going to pass the query over here which we copied from there. Then it's going to return a promise dot then data, and then we're going to return that data, all right. So that it's going to be returned, and we need to capture it over here as items equals, and finally from this function I'm just going to return that items outside. All right, so let's see whether this is working perfectly fine or not. So now we need to fetch it somewhere, and we need to call this functions to get the categories, because you know once you click this get started, it's going to display the list of get category, the categories are only. So let's go to our screens, expand the screens tab, and go to your home screen, because that is the place where we are displaying our dummy data information, which is this data information. So we need to update this categories so that we can send the categories over here. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So what we need to do is, first we need to use the use effect method to get hook, use effect hook to get that get categories, so that this will get fetch the details from our server. So let's go ahead and you can say use effect. So make sure the use effect is imported over there. Then it's going to take two parameters over here. One is the function itself and another one is the dependency injections. So here I'm just going to call the get category. So that is imported from our Sanity, and it's a function, and this function is going to return a promise, and we're going to get that data, and that data it's going to be I'm just going to, for the time being, console.log that data. Then in case if there is any error is coming, we need to catch that error and we need to handle that error as well. So I'm just going to say alert that error, whatever the error it is, please throw an alert so that I can able to see. So let me start the server one more time. Yarn start. So it's starting, and let's open the iOS simulator. It's opening. It's taking more than a while. Yeah, it's loaded, and let me reload this app. Yeah, it's reloading. It's rebuilding the complete application. It's rebuilding 98. All right, so rebuilding is done. So if I click get started, and we are getting this URL search params.set.not implemented. So I've been stuck in this error for more than 2 days after research and get some help from our community. So I able to figure it out what exactly we need to do. So the URL search param.set is an error which is thrown by our framework JS, which is not supported for all the modern browsers. Which is not supported for all the browsers, which it will support only the modern web browsers, not the very old web versions and everything. So we need to rectify these issues. So what we need to do is, so all you have to do is to download a very specific package. So 1 second, just give me a minute. Let me open it. Where it is. Where it is. Yeah, so we need to download this specific copy, open the browser and search for this one, React Native URL polyfill. This is the one. So it's the lightweight trustworthy URL polyfill for the React Native. So we need to install this one. So, and why do we need this? So React Native does include the polyfill for the URL, but the polyfill is homemade in order to keep it lightweight. And React Native Pros, why we need it? Should add. So please go through the documentations over here, how to add and how to use, and every information, how to set up and everything. So in this case, I'm just going to copy this yarn add, and I'm just going to create one more terminal, new terminal, and I'm just going to paste it yarn add React Native URL polyfill. So that will download the URL polyfill in our project. So it's downloading. All right, so now it's downloaded. So let's head back to our home app.js, this place, and right after the screen, I'm just going to say import React Native URL polyfill / auto. So we're going to use the auto to configure everything automatically. So save the changes and let's reload our application. Reload it. It's reloading. Okay, so now it's reloaded. Let's get back to our server where it is. Here it is. So it's reloading, it's completed. So if I click get started, and now you can see it's showing the list of data. It's showing the data which is coming from our Sanity server, right? So now we have our data over here. So all we have to do is to integrate this data in this specific place. All right, so let's go here to our home screen. So instead of this dummy data, I'm just going to delete all these data what we have in our hand. Let me delete this. And instead of console logging it, I'm just going to say set data. We need to update this category. So let me delete. So let me delete this. Set categories is equals data. Okay, so now what we need to do, we need to update this data into categories, and instead of sending this data, I'm just going to say categories. So save the changes. So it's loading now. Okay, but it's not displaying the images. The reason is because we need to send your what is that? You can see. So we're having this image field, right? We're having this image field. We need to use the image URL use URL for. We created a function use URL for to fetch the image, right? So we need to get that image and we need to display it over there. So let's get to our masonry and the place where we are displaying the image. This is the place that we are displaying the image. So we need to wrap that thing into our URL for function. So let's get back to that and then wrap that function over there. So now what we need to do, cut it and use that URL for, and then supply that inside here, not image URL. In this case, the field name is going to be image. So I'm just going to say data.image. Then all I have to say is get that URL. We're going to get that CDN and supply this URL. Save the changes and now that should display the images, their respective images. So it's taking some time to load the image, but now it's successfully loading that image over here. So now all we have to do is to, so currently it's displaying the categories, right? So once we tap that categories, we need to bring the list of images which is comes under that categories, right? So but right now the UI what it's showing, if I tap anything, it's going to this screen. So instead of going to that screen, what we need to do is we need to navigate, we need to go to the screen one again. We're going to load the same screen, but on that screen we're going to load the items which belongs to that specific category. So let's fetch the items which is belongs to that specific categories. So we'll go and write the queries for that first. So let's go to our server desk over here, go to the server vision, and for the category, which one we having, items, I think I added the items for, yeah, landscapes and as well as the animals. So let's go here, let's find out the landscapes. Where is the landscapes? Baby, travel, cars, landscape, here it is. So this is the ID. So let me copy this ID. All right, so then now what we need to do is, all we have to do is to write the query to get the category based on the category ID. We need to get the items based on the category ID. So instead of this, I'm just going to say, let me get the items. We're going to get the items. So here, instead of category, I'm going to say items, and the field, we're going to supply the ID. This ID, it's going to be inside that. We're going to send an ID over here, which is basically that ID, the landscape ID. All right, so we don't need to supply this. All we have to do is to send this complete ID. Okay, we send that ID. After this double quotes, what we need to do is, this ID should be inside in the category, in the category array. Inside the category array, we have a very because this is an ID, you need to search only in the ID field. It should fetch the matching ID field. So category is an array. Go inside that category array and try to find out in this matching field. Okay, so basically we are trying to get everything from the items, and as well as we are trying to find out only for the matching field this particular ID. So this ID should be inside the category array and it should match this ID field. All right, so now let's execute this query, fetch. So it's showing 0 items. Why? I think we made a mistake, maybe a mistake in the ID name. Yep, so let me copy this and let me paste it over here one more time. So let's bring the category, delete everything, and let me bring the category, fetch. Okay, so where is that category? Landscape, this is that category. So I'm just going to copy this, copy, and let me go here. And now instead of this, I'm just going to enter. Let's break it. Okay, so now we have that ID and in operator and everything. So let's fetch it. So now you can see it's showing 4 items which is belongs to that specific ID. So the query which we are trying to return, it's working perfectly. Now it's displaying only this specific ID. But the problem over here is we are not going to search only for this specific ID. That ID should be dynamically supplied from whenever I'm tapping this information. So I need to send this value as a dynamic parameter. So let's see how to update this query by using a dynamic parameter. So let me copy this from here, copy, and let's go to the sanity.js. So right after here, we're going to export one more function, export const get category items by ID equals. So we're going to supply the ID dynamically inside over here, and this function is going to be an async function, and open the tab. So here inside this, what's an issue? Export, why it's showing an issue over here? Async. Yep, A6 spelling wrong. That's the reason. So now what we need to do is, so just like the same way, I'm just going to say await client dot fetch. I'm going to supply that URL over here, but what we're going to do is, instead of using normal single quotes, I'm going to use the string literals, which is backtick, and paste it over here. So let me bring it in a straight line here, and this is supposed to be here, and this is supposed to be over here, but not this ID. Instead of this ID, I'm going to send a dynamic parameter. So in that case, I'm just going to say $ID. Okay, so this $ID will be replaced by our ID which we are passing over here. So then if the data is fetched properly, we need to return that data. So let's return that data. If there is any error while doing this, so this should be wrapped inside this brackets. So if there is any error while doing this, so we need to handle that error, but we'll handle that error in the front end, so no issues. So this will return the data. So let's get that data over here, items equals, say the changes, and we need to return the items outside. And of course, at last, at the end, what we need to do is, we haven't added this dynamic parameter value for this dynamic parameter. So right after this, add a comma and open an object parameters, because you can see it's a query string. We supply the query string, then you need to supply the parameter. So this is the parameter we have, so we need to supply the parameter. In this case, I'm just going to say ID. In case if you are using different parameter and different value over here, so you need to specify that name, just like this ID colon, we can supply that ID name. In this case, both are same, so we can use this. You don't need to supply it in that way, you can directly give the name itself. So this parameter will replace this ID value over here. Okay, so now what we need to do is, whenever I'm tapping this information, that information needs to send an ID to another screen. So we need to build another screen so that we can display all the informations according to that specific category. So let's go ahead and create another screen, and that screen is going to be our items screen, the place where we're going to display all our items. So let's create a new item screen, items screen, JSX, and RNFE, React Native functional export. Go to your app.js. So this is the place. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it right after over here. And this is going to be our item screen. Copy this name and paste it over here. And since this is coming from directly from our component, so we need to add this in our index.js as well. So copy this and paste it and change this to item screen, and give a name as item screen by default. Save the changes and go here, and now import it one more time, and that will come from that import statement itself. So save the changes. Now we have our item screen. Okay, so now, but the problem over here is, when I click tap, it's directly navigating to our another screen, which is our items, this particular screen. It's taking us to item. But what we need to do is, so when I'm tapping it, instead of taking it to the item, the screen should be updated dynamically, right? So this because since this masonry layout is a reusable component, we're going to use the same layout just for our category and as well as for our item screen. So instead of repeating this entire stuff, we can update the data and we update this screen information. So to achieve that, what we're going to do is, so instead of sending directly to the masonry layout along with the category, I'm sending one more parameter called screen. Which screen I need to load? So I need to load this item screen. Whenever I'm fetching the data for categories, so it's going to display the categories and it's going to show the item screen. But inside the item screen, I will call the masonry layout and I'll use the different screen. So because right now we are inside the item screen, so when from the item screen, if I call the masonry layout, so it should tap and it should navigate the user to the different screen. Okay, so you will understand once we're done with the complete example. So screen over here, right now we are using the item screen. So save this property. So copy this, save it, and let's get back to the masonry layout. And here expand it and send we need to use the screen layout. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to update the screen whenever we are tapping this information. So instead of hard coding the item screen over here, I'm going to supply the screen informations, and through the parameter, instead of supplying this ID, I'm going to send the underscore ID, because that is the place where we are having our ID, right? So now whenever I tap this, that will send the ID and it will take the user to this item screen. So now inside the item screen, I need to fetch the information which I need to display. So I need to get that ID first. So let's get that ID and let's see whether we are getting that ID or not. So let's go to the item screen over here, and we need to get the navigation. And by default, whenever the navigation router will provide you this route property, let's extract that route property, and we're just going to say const id is equals, we'll get that id, const id is equals route question mark dot params dot param, because that is the object that we are sending from there. Okay, so if you go to your masonry layout, you can see that's the object name that we are sending. So route.params is the default, and this is the parameter which we are sending. That's our custom name. So save the changes and let's get that console.log id. So through far it's not showing any issue. Let's open the terminal and let's get back here, and we can see it's showing something that, okay, it's showing the ID, oh sorry, the data. Now if I click tap, if I tap this, we are getting an error, property screen does not exist. So why it's showing the screen is it does not exist. So where it's showing screen, okay, this is the screen, and we are using the screen inside the card item, so that screen needs to be paused inside the card item as well. So screen equals to screen, right? Because see, we are inside the masonry layout. Inside the masonry layout, we have one more component, that is our card component. You need to send the card component to the screen to your card component. So there only we are handling that information. So that's the reason it's showing an error. So save the changes, and now if I tap this, and it's showing still the screen is doesn't exist. Why? We updated this information. Okay, so I haven't fetched the property, my bad. So here I need to fetch the property, screen properties. We send this property but we haven't received it. It's very bad. So if I tap this now, and now we can see we are inside the item screen and we have our ID over here. So now using this ID, I need to fetch the information from the Sanity. So I need to send this ID to this method so I can fetch that all the details which matching for this particular ID. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now we are successfully over here. So let me get back to the previous screen. Since we are using only the landscapes, so let me choose the landscapes. So if I click the landscapes, it's going there, and we have the updated landscape ID over here. So let me close this instead of console log. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fetch it. So use effect, and it's have two parameters. One is function and another one is the dependencies. Okay, so here we're gonna fetch this get category by items by ID. So I don't need this because I'm not using this method. Let me delete it. And here I need to supply that ID, and then this is going to get the data dot then data. If that is data, so what we need to do, we need to update it to our items. So I'm just going to create a use state. So use state snippets, and that is going to be items, set items. Initially it's going to be null, and here I'm just going to say set items of items. All right, since we know already the query, everything is working perfectly, so we can directly set it. In case if it is not showing, let's do something. Let's console log it, then we can go for it. So console log dot data, in case if there is any error is happening, so we need to catch that error and we need to throw an alert. So alert with that error object, what exact error object that you are getting. So save these changes. All right, so it's showing use state is not defined, so it's okay. Now the use state is defined. Save these changes, click it, and it's loading the images and everything. So if I tap this, now let's console log it. Okay, look at that. So we having that in items. You can see we having the item type items because it's loading the document items. So it's fetching the data according to that specific items. So now what we need to do is we need to update the designs. So just like the same way how we design the home screen, I'm just going to copy this view completely from here, copy, and then the item screen. So I'm just going to update this item screen, and let's go ahead and do the same stuff. So let me copy exactly the same thing, copy it and replace this. Okay, so but now what we are going to do is, instead of this displaying the safe area instantly, okay, I'm just going to bring a loader. Okay, so use state snippets is loading, and we're going to say it as false. So if this is loading, of course we're going to bring that activity indicator. Otherwise we're going to bring that this command. Let's bring that snippet inside here. I'm just going to say activity indicator. So let's bring it from React Native, self-closing tag, and this is going to have the color property, and basically it's going to have ff hash ff 0000 hash ff 0000. Then the size of that indicator is going to be large. So by default we set this for the time being true, and let's see how it's looking. So now you can see we have that activity indicator which is working perfectly. And over here, if we have, so next what we need to do, we need to check the items. If I do have the items, then I need to display this. I need to display this block of codes. Otherwise I need to display this particular block of codes. So what is that? It's going to be basically that is going to be a text, and we are just going to say no items found. And for this I'm just going to say class name, and this is going to be text 3XL or 2XL, and font bold and text white. If there is no items, then it's going to display that items. So let's change this to false. So currently it will display the blank screen because why? Because yes, of course, the items, it's completely empty because we haven't set the data to our states. That's the reason it's showing no items. So instead of console.log it, so we need to set this items, set the data to our items. Okay, so now we're having the blank screen. So now what we need to do, instead of this particular place, we need to bring that safe area which will be copied from the home screen, save these details, and instead of this categories I need to send that items, and instead of this item screen, now it's going to our item screen, item screen. Save the changes. Now okay, we need to import this safe area view, import it from React Native, and import the touchable opacity also React Native. And we need to bring this icon, right? Since we need to bring this icon, so let's go to our home screen and let's copy this icons, copy, and let's paste it right after here. Save the changes, get started. Let's choose the landscape, and it's showing scroll view does not exist. Okay, I forgot to add the scroll view. React Native, save the changes, tap this. God, masonry layout. Import it. What else we missing? I think I installed everything. Sorry, I imported everything. Tap it. Unable to resolve image URL. Unable to resolve image URL. What is that image URL? Where it is coming from? Image URL. I think it's coming from items. id image URL for image. Everything is fine. What is the issue then? Data.image. What is the thing we are? Let's go to the bottom and let's see what is the error we are getting. Unable to resolve image URL source undefined. Okay, I think we are not getting the data. Let's scroll down over here. Title, we have it. Okay. It's using the name as main image. Problem is in our schemas. Items. Yeah, here we go. I totally forgot about it. So where is the category? So here we are having it image. So this will become a problem for us because this name over here we are using it as image. Okay, because the category it's using the name as image, but for items it's using the name as main image. So what we need to do is either we need to change it over here to keep the same name, so this will work fine, or we need to check the screen, because if the screen is coming from as an item screen, then I need to load it as image because it's loading the category. If it is loading for a specific item, then we need to load it as main image. Okay, so what we can do, so what will be the best approach? If you ask me, it's better to change the schema itself. So let's change the schema and update it, and let's redeploy it in the server. So let's change this to image, and let me give this as image. Save these changes and Control J, and all we have to do is to go to the server one more time, cd server, and let's say Sanity deploy. Enter. So that will deploy the Sanity, and it will update our data. It's loading. It's loading. I hope our items, everything will be fine in the server. Let's see. It's uploading. So let's wait until it's successfully deployed. So now it's deployed. Let me go here and let's open it one more time and see whether we're having our item in our yes, we do have all our items, but it's having an issue. So I think it's lost all the images. It's lost all the images. All we have to do is to upload the images one more time. But the travel, yeah, it's having the image. So we need to upload the images for this. Oh God. So let me open my downloads folder. Okay, so what is that? So fisherman and tree. So where is that image? So here it is. So let me click and drag it over here, publish it, and let's see. Yeah, fine. So let's go here and update it. So just like the same way, update the image alone so that it will work perfectly fine. What we have to do is we need to repeat the same step, that's the headache. So let me bring this image. I didn't check that, so just because of the small mistake we are reworking the same thing again. So please pause this video and go ahead and add all the remaining images. So I'm just going to pause this video and I'm going to add all the remaining images. All right then, so I re-uploaded all the images, and let's go ahead and restart our server and let's see, and let's reload our app. Okay, so there is some issue and it's now reloading. Okay, let's get this. Let's get the dashboard, and still we are getting that issue. Why? Hmm. Let me console log it. I think I do console log it. Let's go ahead and please do the console log whether we are fetching the updated information or what. Let's see. Just like here, before setting it, let's console log it. Console.log, and let's that data. So let's console log it. Now let me reload it one more time. Stop the server and let's run it one more time. Yarn start. Open the iOS simulator. So it's loaded and let's refresh this app. It's refreshing. I hope it will work. So otherwise it will be a very big problem for us. Click get started. Okay, so we are getting the items now and it's fixed. Look at that, it's fixed. So you should be very careful, guys, because it's my bad because I failed to check, because you know it's supposed to be same name, because if it is same name it is a very easy lesser work for us. Otherwise what we need to do, we need to check the screen name, then we need to update the screen detail according to it. So it is a very big problem. Think about it, if you're having more than 2 screens, 3 screens, it will be a very big problem for us. So that's the reason I altered the schema once again and updated the images and everything. So now it's working perfectly fine. Okay, so now what we need to do is, if I tap this, now we need to navigate to that specific item screen. You can see if I tap this, it's loading that landscapes and everything. And now if I tap this, that needs to navigate to that the specific item screen, so that it should display this specific item. Okay, so let's go ahead and display that items. Type image. Okay, so let's go to the item screen. So now when we are tapping this, it should print it is passing the item. So in the item, we need to fetch that specific item, just like the same way what we used to do. So here we are having that item. So let's console.log that ID, so that let's see what ID we are getting. So now if I tap this, we are getting that ID. So using this ID, we need to fetch that specific data so that we can display it in the item screen. So let's go there and fetch that specific ID by sending this. We need to fetch that ID information, right? So let me copy this ID from here. Copy this ID. This is the ID we get from the, let's go to the vision. Let me, yeah, here and here. Okay, so let me delete this. So we need to get the items and we need to fetch the ID, right? So instead of this, I'm going to delete this and I'm just going to say, and we are going to filter just ID. We need to get the ID. So underscore ID should be equals to that specific ID. Paste it. Okay, so now let's fetch this. All right, so that is giving the one item. It's an array, so I need to get the first array only, because that image is going to be only one ID. So supply the 0th index. So 0th index, you can see it's showing the 0th index over here. It's an array, so you need to get the 0th index from there. So if I fetch it, not there, outside. So that is returning an array, not inside after the double quotes, because previously I returned over here, not inside there. Paste it outside. So from that array we are accessing the 0th index. Look at that. So now we have that specific data. What is the category, and what is that image, and what is that okay, we having the previous property also, main image. We having the two image field. Okay, so we need to remove that field. So if you go here, if you go to the items, if I tap any items, and you can see So not this one, sorry, that is the previous URL, right? We haven't updated that. So if we just need to refresh this, refresh it. So items and tab the item. So here you can see still you have that unknown field found. All you have to you need to remove that field from here. Okay, so that's the reason when you're executing that query, it's showing that two options. So I need to run it one more time. So over here, what we need to do, we need to supply that ID. Basically, we are hard coding this ID for the time being right now. But what we need to do is later we need to change this. So this ID field is going to be changed dynamically. Instead of hard coding this ID, we're going to change it later. And here, this array, it's going to return array, and I'm going to access the first index of it. So let me expand this so that you can see it very clearly. So we're having that array, and now if you fetch it, and we're having the details over here. All right, so we're going to access this image field for our database. All right, so that's fine. So let's get back to our field over here. So this is the query, so we need it. So let me copy this query, and let's get back to our sanity, and here we need to get that specific item. So we're going to call a method. So let me paste it over here for the time being, and let me copy it and paste it over here, and let me change this get item by ID. Get item by ID, and we are supplying the ID. And now let me cut this field, cut it, and I'm going to replace this over here, replace it, and instead of this double quotes ID field, I'm just going to use our $ID. So this will be replaced over here. That is going to return the data, and the items will be returned, and this is going to be a single item. So item and item. Save the changes. So now let's get back to our item over here, and we need to use the use effect method. So right after here, I'm just going to say use effect, get the data, sorry, use effect and arrow function, and the dependency injection. So let's open it. So just like the same way, we having this is loading property. So we need to say set loading and everything. And I forgot to update the set loading property over here also. So here I'm just going to say set loading true. Once it's started to fetching the data, we are going to change it. Once we have the data in our hand, right after here, I'm just going to say set time interval, not timeout, set time interval, that is set interval 2000, that means 2 seconds. After 2 seconds, I'm just going to say set is loading as false. So now if you get back to here, if I click the landscape, it's loading, and now you can see we have that image. All right, just like the same way we need to do it in the item screen as well. So here I'm just going to say set is loading as true initially, and then we're gonna get the item by ID, supply that ID, and that is going to return the detail which we need from our database. So we need to get that item by ID, then it's going to return the data. So promise, get that promise and get that data and supply it to our set item. We need to update the state. So here use state snippet, get that date. So let's get the item, set item. Initially it's going to be null, and here let's set that item with our item which we are getting from the data. Then it's going to catch that error. In case if there is any error, we need to throw that alert, that error object. Okay, once these things done, we need to change set is loading, set interval 2000, and change this set is loading to false, so that state will get updated. And now if I click this, it will be loading, and it's showing still this image. So instead of this image, what we need to do, instead of here, I'm just going to say URL for, I'm going to supply this item dot image dot URL. Save the changes. It's loading. Now it's loading that image over here. All right, so just like the same way, we need to update the title and the description. Instead of showing this some title and some description, I'm just going to say item question mark dot title. Let's use the conditional rendering. That's better to avoid unwanted mistakes. So items dot description. Save the changes. Now we can see it showing that information over here. And since inside this view it's showing justify between and where this is the place, right? So flex by default it is column item center. Instead of item center, we can keep it as item start, so that will be over here. Cool, right? So then what we need to do, so when I click this, it is taking us to home screen. It should take us to the items screen. So now if I click here, params dot param, item screens need an ID, right? So we need to update this back navigation route. Okay, so what we need to do is whenever you're tapping that back navigation screen, that needs to send that category ID back. So that's the place where we are tapping that information. So what we need to do, we need to send that category ID. So somehow we need to, when we are fetching this, we having the category information inside the category, the 0th index, and we having that reference over here. So we need to send this reference. That is our ID, so we need to send that reference. So let's go here. Sorry, over here, how we are sending the ID. So let's copy this, go to the item. Right after here, I'm just going to pass the param, but instead of data.id, in this case we're going to get let's console log this so that we can see the data, like category. In the category we have the 0th index. Inside the 0th index we have the reference. Okay, so where is that? Item dot, from the item we're going to access this category, and that is 0th index. From that index I'm going to get that underscore reference. Save the changes, go here, landscape, get it. It's showing unsolved to resolved image URL. Why? Right now it was working perfectly. Let me get this on press, cut it, save this, landscape, image URL. Where is the image URL? This is the place, right? Why it's showing an issue? Unsolved image URL from source, undefined. Right now it was working. Reload the app. Let's tab this. Let's get the console. Okay. Reload it. Refreshing. And here, okay, tap it, landscape, Okay, we are getting the data, we're having the image property as well. If I tap this, now it's showing that error. Why? We are sending that ID, so ID is came inside. We need to make sure whether we are getting the data or not. So console dot, come on, console dot log data semicolon, save changes, reload the app, get started. Here we are getting the data, and if I tap this, we are getting the ID, but we are not getting that data. That is a problem over here. The problem is inside our Sanity, this place. The score ID should be equals to this ID. There is no mistakes in the queries, but we are not getting the data in our Sanity. That's the reason. Right now, previously it was working, but now what's the issue? What was an issue? So let me comment this. So let's keep this state as true. Get started, tap it, tap this. When we are tapping it from item screen, it is taking to item, just coming over here. What might be an issue? Not sure. Unable to resolve image URL. Data. Else. ASCII. Still it's showing the image, unable to resolve that image URL. But previously it was working. Why? What will be an issue? Okay, so after a very long search, I finally figured out what exact mistake we are making over here, because this is an asynchronous function. So it's loading this int immediately without verifying. We are not verifying whether we're having the data in our item or not. That's the reason it's not working properly. So since it is a conditional rendering over here, so it's looking, if it's checking over here, if I click this landscape, it's loading. If I tap this, it's showing the image URL is not defined because it's not, the data at the backend, it's not fetched properly, and it's immediately trying to mount this UI component. So what we need to do is, from here to here, the place, this is the safe area view, right? Yes. Cut it completely, and I need to check the whether I do have an item or not. Only if I have an item, I need to render this. All right, so let's open a React fragment, and inside that fragment, let's paste it, save the changes. So now if I tap this, if I go here, it's loading the screen, and if I tap this, it's loading, and now we have that image over there. So that's the issue. So it's like, I thought that again it's showing an issue with our image from our backend, but we are getting our data in the console log. When we do the console log, it's not printing the console log also. Then I came to know that it's trying to mount the UI first, then it's trying to do the console log and everything. So we need to render it properly every time, and we need to check the data whether we have the data, then only we need to render it. So now the issue is solved, and it's not going back because we are not supplying the proper ID. Since we are already having the ID, the data ID which we are fetching it from here. So let's see, let's navigate the user back to the previous screen itself. So what we need to do is, let's go here. Where is this? Okay, so the place where we are having that icons arrow back here. So for this, we need to run the on press event. We get the callback, and we'll just set navigation dot navigate the user to the home screen. That's the place where we are displaying all the categories. Save the changes. Now if you tap this, that will take the user to the categories screen, and now user can switch between the categories over there, and you can choose the different images and everything. All right, so now all we have to do is to download this option. We need to enable this download option. All right, so let's go ahead and do that now. All right guys, so now we need to download this image to, when I tap this, we need to download this image to our image gallery. So after a long research, I found this Stack Overflow. Real thanks to the Stack Overflow, so I able to find out this code which helps us to download the image URL to our media library directly. So what we need to do is, this is the code which this answer is working perfectly for us. All we have to do, handle this on press, so that helps us to call this method, and it's using the moment.js. So we need to install that, we need to add that moment, and it's using this permissions, media library, and all those things. We need to add all those media libraries and moments and everything. So let's go ahead and copy this code completely from here. Copy this code. We don't need this image URL because we're going to replace this image URL with our specific object. So let's get back to our code, and right after this use effect method, I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to call this method on press whenever we are saving. On press, handle this event, so that will call this event. So now inside here, we need to use this file system since we don't have this file system. So this should, we need to import the file system, and here this image URL. So this is going to be our item image URL. So we need to supply our item URL. So we need to use the URL for image, and so let's copy this, and let's go here, update this URL, save changes. So our URL will be passed over here, so that will try to save, and it looks for whether it's allowing the permissions. Do you have the permissions for your media library or not? If the status is granted, then it will download the URL directly to your media libraries and everything. Okay, if you save this file right now, it will throws a bunch of errors. If you tap this, it's showing possible handle rejections, showing that possible handle rejections. It's showing that property moment doesn't exist. So you need to import a certain packages first. So let's go here, let's add that certain packages. Let's go here, and we need to add the packages like yarn add. First you need to add the moment. Okay, since we are using the file system, so you need to get the expo file system, expo underscore file hyphen system. System. So let's go here, let's look at whether he's provided the package or not. No, he haven't provided the package, but you need to use the file system, right? So we need to get the expo file system. So yarn add moment expo hyphen file system. Then we need to get the permission. So expo hyphen permissions. Then we are using the expo media library. So expo hyphen media library. So these are the packages that we need to add. So press enter. So make sure that everything is downloaded without showing any issues or anything. Let's wait until it gets downloaded. So now it's downloaded. Of course we need to import everything. So let's go ahead and import these the required packages. So these are the import statements that you need to add for your media library. So star as file system, we get the everything from there, and we keep in the name as file system, just like for the permissions also, and for media libraries also. And moment is, so let's say this changes. So now everything, every issues is resolved. So it's loaded. Now if I click this, it's taking some time. It's asking us for the permissions. If you click allow, and I think it is saved. Let's go here. Let me close this. Let me open the photo gallery, and look at that. We have our image in our that, but we don't have any alert message. Once the image is saved, we need to throw an alert message. What we can do, once this image is saved, this is the place, right? This is the place, download. We just save this, we just throw that alert message. So if the album is created, so we just need to show this is the place where the album is getting created. So that also we need to throw that message for the initial, when you're, if for the first time in the initial download, we need to show that message, right? So image saved. Let's copy this and let's paste it right over here as well. Save the changes. So let's download some other image now. Get back here. Let me go back here and let me load the animals, and let me load this white line. Okay, white line is here. So we don't have this image in our gallery. You can see that we don't have that image in our gallery. So let's go here, and if I click this download, it's showing alert image saved, but we are getting this warning. That's fine. Let's go here and let's see whether that image is there or not. Look at that. We have our image over there. So we successfully finished the project which we planned to do, but in between we faced a lot of issues, and we solved the issues directly in the video itself. I hope you guys are enjoyed this session. But if you're having any issues, and if you faced any issues during this video or practicing it, so just let me know in the comment section, so I will help you out. And I hope we completed this project. Since this project is having a lot of features needs to be added. Maybe in future we'll try to integrate all the features, and let's really make this app as a complete app. Okay, so for that I'm leaving right now, and until then I'll see you in the next session.